I'd like to welcome everybody. Give me some heat. Thank you everybody for coming out today to the MWF Hall of Fame class of 2023. My name is Bob Starr. Maybe one or two people may remember after 35 years in this business. Today is a special day. You don't see a whole lot of these happen anymore. And the Hardy families went through a lot of pain in the rear end to make sure this happened for a lot of guys. They've done a lot of things in the state of Maryland in pro wrestling. But instead of me just sitting here running my mouth, how about I bring out the class of 2023 MWF Hall of Fame. And just on a side note, it's kind of funny. I got the call last night about MC today. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And I walk in the building and Brian goes, you got 2 minutes to open it up. I'm like, dude, the Maryland State Athletic Commission wanted to hang me because I wouldn't shut up. Okay. But let's start it off right. I'll be the first inductor. The man I'm going to bring up here came to the gym that we had in Essex, Maryland, Brainbusters Pro Wrestling Academy many years ago. Claude Marrow, a.k.a. Ruckus, has pretty much been everywhere, but the things that you don't know is 3-time Baltimore City Wrestling Champion, Regional State Champion, Baltimore Sun Athlete of the Year, and many other things just here in Baltimore. He took that and went on to come to the MEWF, which fans remember that, it's been many years ago, and pretty much held every championship he could at that time from his size and his weight. He's also been to CZW, if you're familiar with them, MWF, ACW, and more companies that I care to remember, to be honest with you. But this man has done it all, including going to Japan. That thing back in the day actually meant something. Today's wrestling is a major difference. Back then, if you got to go to Japan, you had your stuff together. And he got to tag with Abdullah the Butcher, if you guys are familiar with him. So let's just let him do the talking because this is his time. Let me bring up Ruckus and Robbie Illuminati. Joining Ruckus is his tag team partner and manager, Robbie Illuminati. And we got Robbie to come in today because my memory is kind of short. Robbie, light him up.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is from Chocolate City, weighing in at a street value of $31 million. He is the Jake the Snake of getting baked, the Chris Cash of smoking hash, the Teddy Long of hitting the bong, the Terry Funk of getting very crunk, and he is the Bruce Lee of my best friend and today's first inductee into the Maryland Wrestling Federation Hall of Fame, Ruckus.
I'm not much at giving speeches, so I'm going to keep it pretty short. I was pretty much just a guy wrestling in his yard who wanted to be a pro wrestler. And there was a guy named Tim Burke who actually took a chance on me and gave me a shot. And his partner, Dennis Mcbride, they ran the MEWF, and that was the first place that I was actually able to show my talent. I was trained by Bob Starr, Chad Austin, Dino Casanova, Gilbert, Axelrod, Morgus, and amongst others. And clearly they did a great job. So thank you all for that because I really appreciate it. I wrestled a lot of places. I helped a lot of younger guys coming up, like Ryan McBride. My first guy I trained with Derek Frazier, and he went on to do a lot of good things. And my boy Sanjay Dutt is also awesome. My tag partner Robbie Marino over there, and thank you. My tag partner Robbie Marino, my fiance Megan. Thank you both for always having my back. Thank you, Brian, for hooking me up here. And I don't know, I really don't got a lot more to say. Thank everybody, and yeah, just thanks. Appreciate it.
I'm a hustler, I'm a hustler, nigga action, nigga action, help me, nigga action, nigga action, help me.
Up next, I remember this kid when we were already wrestling, and he stuck around the business. He was there for forever. I watched his son be born, and he's called me Uncle Bob his whole life. He's going to be a championship golfer. He's sitting right back there. It's like his accomplishments are amazing. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, not paying attention for a couple of years, good regular life, and Andy Weinberg pops up. And I'm like, what the hell happened to Andy? This guy's amazing. And he's stuck in the Indies, and he's working all over the place. And it's like, people have got to be seeing him. If you haven't seen him in a show, make sure to do it. Because the art of managing in pro wrestling is lost. It's been lost for many years. This guy brings it back. And I'm not just saying it because he's my friend. I'm saying it because he deserves it. But at this time, I want to bring up Andy Weinberg.
I know what feels like. I know what guys want. I know what feels like.
Really?
I got what feels like.
Thanks, Brian.
You deserve it.
You deserve it.
Thanks. Well, anyway, Brian gives me 2 minutes, but that's not going to happen. Because he's never seen me cut a live promo then, right? Anyway, I want to thank Brian and his family for doing this today, and all of you that are being inducted. So well deserved. I've seen probably most of your first matches. Congratulations to all of you. Just a couple of notes first. For me to get here today, it was hard. I got lost, but then I started using my nose to find it today because there was a big cloud of smoke around here and the smell of weed, and I knew Ruckus is there. I got the place. I had to make sure I did that, right? Then I arrive at the building, and I see this guy, his backside's turning. I'm like, wow, man, Brian went all that. He brought Rikishi in. Turns around, it's Hollywood Bob Starr. I love you, Bob, you know that. But truth be told, guys, I've seen a lot of these guys make great matches. I mean, Gilbert, I saw your first match. You know, Morgus, I saw you, we were talking earlier, I saw you go through he went head first through a window. You know, we're old now, guys, right? Speaking of old, I asked my grandfather, the late Charlie Weinberg once, I said, hey, Pop, who were your favorite wrestlers growing up? And just a true story, he said, my favorites growing up, he's since passed, unfortunately, but Antino Rocca, Bruno Sammartino, Haystacks Calhoun, Tom Brandi, and Mike Kaluuya. Right? Hey, look, let me tell you something. Two of the best right there from Pennsylvania. I had the honor to manage them and work with them, and there's truly nobody better. So let's hear it for those guys right there. For sure. Anyway, I'm here for somebody special today. Danny Mays. Let's hear it for Danny Mays. Danny Mays is literally the reason so many people are deaf. True story. Danny plays in a 90s band called Here's to the Night that should be known as Here's to Your Night, Your Last Night of Hearing. It's a 90s band. It's fitting because look at Danny. He looks like a 90s version of Pee Wee Herman. Danny was actually the voice of the Aberdeen Ironbirds at one point. It was the team's worst record in history. His voice was so bad he would scare the team into a frenzy every night. And they heard him, and now half the team play for the Deaf Baseball League now. They hired the Bat Boy the following season, by the way. Did a much better job. Then, of course, Danny Mays ring announces too. And you think his music is bad? You got to hear him ring announce. He literally sounds like a dying dog when he's out there. He knows it's true. I'm just kidding. He's great. Let's all hear it. Danny Mays. When I first met Danny at an MWF show, I was immediately taken back by his enthusiasm and showing so much respect to the talent. It's safe to say, at one point, I was actually doing ring announcing, and Danny certainly did a much better job after the first MWF show. Remember that show? Right away, Brian was smart. It's the best booking decision you ever made, by the way.
Commentary with Raven.
Yeah, that was a little rough, too. Anyway, from the first time I heard him, I could tell there was something special about him, about his voice, and his desire to deliver each and every time in the ring. He takes his ring announcing job more serious than anyone that you'll ever know or ever meet. As someone that has seen many ring announcers come and go for the past 30 years in this area, there is truly no one better than Danny Mays. I know he is literally living his dream each and every time he walks to the ring. He's been in the ring with legend after legend. He is someone that could have been signed for sure by a major company if he chose. But I know it's behind the mic what matters the most to Danny. And that's being a father, a husband, a son, and so much more. You guys are his world, as you know. No one deserves this award more than Danny for all he has contributed to the Maryland wrestling scene. Danny has told me many times that Howard Finkel was his idol, right? Well, it is my pleasure to introduce and induct to the MWF Hall of Fame Maryland's own Howard Finkel. Let's give it up for Danny Mays.
Did that for you. Thank y'all very much. I'm so glad this is recorded. I'm going to play this for Andy every time we work a show together from now on. Guys, I'm just a fan. I've been a fan of pro wrestling since I was 4 years old. I was fortunate enough to be able to come over the railing and make an impact. I like what Andy said about respecting the talent. I've always believed a ring announcer's role is to accentuate the presentation. And you've got men and women giving their lives for your entertainment. And I'm sure you've all been to a show where you left thinking, that ring announcer was real bad. I'm talking the ones in the jorts. You know what I'm talking about, right? And so I've always believed that if talent take the time and the dedication to be away from their families and learn their craft and tell a story in the ring, that's what people should leave remembering. Not somebody played the wrong music, couldn't hear the ring announcer looked like crap. So I've always prided myself on people leaving the show remembering the talent. Because when the production people behind the scenes fall off, like, dude, he's hitting the music cues like crazy today. And that matters, right? Because you want people leaving not remembering the production side. Because if they don't remember it, that means it was good. And I've always believed that my role was not to be remembered, but to revere the talent. So I really appreciate Andy saying that because it was foundational for me. And the reason it was foundational for me, I'll get to in a minute. I met Brian when I was a lot younger than I am right now. And we used to play shows together at a place called Woods in Severna Park every Friday night. And he would always tell me, he's like, I'm going to start a wrestling company one day. You're going to be my ring announcer. And I mean, this was years and years and years for that. But I'm like, okay, Brian, cool, man. Like, that sounds great. And sure enough, one day he called me. He's like, we're doing it. United States Wrestling. It was the first show I ever ring announced. I had zero experience. Green is too nice of a word for what I was. But Brian smartened me up. Brian prepped me. Brian instilled that revering the talent in me. So I came in respecting the wrestling business because of what Brian showed me. And because we both were in music and crossed over a little bit, he kind of showed me the parallels of the industries. And you'd be really surprised how similar they are. So I was off to the races, and I worked everywhere I could work. Towns in Delaware that you can't even pronounce, towns in West Virginia that you can't even pronounce. I just wanted to get better. And over the course of that, I've had the opportunity to work for many companies. I'd like to say that I'm one of the only people who was ever simultaneously cool with Brian Hardy, Jimmy Dream, and Dan McDevitt. I mean, at the same time, they would all three take my calls. So that's a personal accomplishment of mine. But I've worked for all of them, and I've enjoyed the process. I'm way luckier and way more blessed than I deserve because of Brian taking a chance on me and not hiring. I mean, dude, Larry Legend was available and you called me, right? Without Brian, I never would have gotten to experience all the things I have in the business. I was on the last Piper's Pit. I interviewed Sting. I've interviewed Bret the Hitman Hart. I got to bang tequila shots with Mean Gene Okerlund. I am a fan who has just been blessed with the opportunity to contribute to the business because I knew I wasn't going to be able to contribute as a talent. I mean, that wasn't going to happen. So I just really appreciate everything Brian's done, and I just want to say and take a moment of personal privilege. You say what you want about Brian Hardy. He is the only one that is going to the effort of honoring the legacy of people who built Maryland wrestling, and that matters. And the fact that Brian and his family put their time and their effort and their money, y'all, this isn't cheap, to do this just to honor the legacy of Maryland wrestling. I think they should be commended for that. It really matters, and I like that they're doing that. I was on the other side of the railing seeing a lot of these men work, and to be in the same program as them is just surreal. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it, and I'd like to segue to talk about our next inductee. The minute I was told I was going to be a ring announcer, I'm like, the timekeeper has to sit at the table a lot, so I want like someone I can trust and somebody who like knows the basics. And I was like, hey Dad, I got this thing. How do you feel about being a timekeeper? He wasn't super stoked on the idea, but my dad is a very quiet guy. I know, quiet guy, and I'm here. I get my loudness from my mom. That's Mom. Hi, Mom. So my dad just immediately embraced this role. He was the timekeeper for all of the MWF shows. He made sure the bag was packed. He made sure we had an extra ring bell. He made sure the ring bell was in good shape. He made sure there were waters in there. He took care of the talent. He worked behind the scenes, helping out. He just immediately jumped in, like he has at so many other times in my life, to just support me, support Brian. I know Brian has appreciated his support as well over the years. So when Brian brought me this induction, he told me that he wanted my dad to be inducted as well. And you don't get to give people their flowers much in life. A lot of times you don't get to tell people how you think about them until they're gone and you're standing here giving their eulogy. And I just want to say the fact that I'm able to be here to tell my dad how much I appreciate him while he's still here means the world to me. So Dad, I just want to tell you thank you so much for everything you've ever done for me, and for everything you've done for MWF. You deserve this, and I want you to know that. I do want to say it's kind of ironic putting my dad and Ruckus back to back, because while Ruckus may be the Jake the Snake of getting baked, I'm going to tell you, Paul Mays is the Just Incredible of crushing edibles. So I don't. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you the next inductee into the class of 2023 MWF Hall of Fame, my father, Mr. Paul Mays.
just one little problem here. You got my name spelled wrong. It's Danny's dad. Is what that should say, but I've never been ashamed, not one time in my life, to be called Danny's dad. I want to thank Brian. It's been a long time since I've been out in public. This was tough. So I want to thank him for prying Pop-Up out of the old easy chair, finally. Let's see if it sticks. I would be remiss and in extreme bad trouble if I didn't mention my wife. Anybody that can stand married to me for 47 years is either a saint or blind, and she's not blind. I'd like to thank my grandchildren. I'd like to thank Josie for keeping me young, and I'd like to thank Beckett for trying to kill me. He is relentless. As is she. Yesterday, they came over to our house, and Nancy took Beckett to my gym while Josie and I binge watched Dance Moms. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but that lady Abby Lee, she's intense. I think she should be in wrestling. You imagine her as Andy. Get to work on that, man. I mean, wow. But seriously, I want to thank my son for having extremely long coattails, and I've been riding them for a long time, and like the song says, what a long, strange trip it's been.
So, Dad, come back real quick, Dad. I wanted to end with one of the cool, like, stone cold beer bash moments, since, you know, a father and son don't go into the Hall of Fame together much. But Dad doesn't drink, but we do drink Code Red Zero Sugar Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
So hit the music. We're going to have a little Mountain Dew bash real quick. Thank you all very much.
What do we do?
Okay, our next inductor. Wow.
I apologize for him.
What do I say? Because I've got something to say about everybody. Brandi, you're coming up. But I've watched this kid since he was born. It makes me feel old. But what's cool is the whole Hardy family. When I started, went to the Monster Factory with Duane, Gill, and Barry Hardy, and they helped finish me off and send me on my way. I watched another Hardy play in the wrestling ring with wrestling buddies. These two. And then I get the other ones too. It's like Hardy's all over the place. But at this time, I want to bring to the podium Adam Armstrong.
Guy.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have the honor to induct someone who has been very instrumental in MWF, or Maryland wrestling history for that matter. A man that began his wrestling career in 2009 under the training of the Hardy Dungeon, like most of us. Trained by Bad Boy Barry Hardy and one of today's inductees, who he had his first match against, the second generation sensation Brian Hardy. This man laced his boots up for the first time under the ring name, The Mick, working for legendary Maryland wrestling promoter and MWF Hall of Famer John Rambo in Hagerstown, Maryland. He would go on to become part of the popular faction known as the Canadian Connection, and wrestle against a list of multiple Maryland Hall of Fame talent at the House of Pain Wrestling Federation. In 2012, this man reinvented his career as a cowboy who went on to have many matches as MWF's top good guy. Most notable with his feud with Rayburn for Maryland Wrestling 2.0. In 2015, he main evented the final MWF event, teaming with Ducky Robinson and Mike Height against Brian Hardy, Barry Hardy, and Thunder Morgan. Today, as I stand before the fans and my peers, I can tell you I've been in the ring with this guy, and he is one tough SOB. A loving husband, father, DJ, grandson, son, brother, firefighter, and friend to many. It is my honor to induct this guy who isn't even Canadian. He's a Mick, an Irish boy, not a Canadian cowboy, but an asphalt cowboy. Please show your respect as we lasso this guy into the MWF Class of 2003 Hall of Fame, Jimmy Aldean.
Jimmy Aldean. I hate that goddamn gimmick, just to let you guys know. That was Brian's creation. I always said they're going to call me Brokeback Mountain, and they did.
I wanted you to be like Barry Windham, man. Come on.
No, I was supposed to tag team with Cliff, Kenny Chesney. We were going to be the Stampede, Stampede Rodeo, but that never happened. I ended up tagging with Ducky, and but anyway, this whole wrestling thing. Brian has been a part of my family since he was born. We're exactly 1 year apart, and I grew up at his grandmother's house, just having Easters and stuff there. But we would always mess around with wrestling and stuff, and the whole wrestling thing, that's what it was to me. We were just messing around with my buddy Brian. When I was like 16, I was pretty much living in Brian's basement, surviving on Pabst Blue Ribbon and Taco Bell.
And Skull.
Oh yeah. My dad's here, don't say that.
All right, that's good. Sorry, Mr. Jim.
But no, we would watch old wrestling VHSs all the time and practice moves outside. In Brian's mind, Brian was going to wrestle at Baltimore Arena for Vince McMahon. And we know how that turned out. But to me, I was just having fun with my buddy. But we started getting pretty good. We were taking bumps on a concrete basement floor until one day Brian got a ring in his backyard. And it was the Field of Dreams. He built it and they came. His dad, Barry, Beach Boy Vinny, Axel Rotten, Pat Brink, all these big name dudes were coming and training with us and teaching us all about the biz. And it was awesome. We started traveling, doing shows. We'd carpool to Hagerstown and run shows at the House of Pain with Rambo. And I remember the first time we went to Hagerstown, I was like, man, these freaking rednecks up here love the wrestling, dude. And I remember looking at Brian, I'm like, hey, man, some of these guys are wrestling with no shoes on, dude. But it was awesome, man. Me, the Mick, Brian, Mike Height, Canadian Connection, it was awesome. To have, I was a kid, and I had kids cheering me on like you were a superstar. I got addicted to it. And then once Brian got his promoter license, we started running MWF shows. It was life, dude. We had a legit thing going on, and it was incredible. Those were some of the best years of my life. I always cherish them, Brian. And I just want to thank you for making that possible, dude. It was this award means a lot to me. I'm glad I always have it to remind me of the good times we had in MWF. I just want to thank a couple people. I want to thank my mom, because she didn't really agree with all this shit, and but she was out there, man. She was always there. She supports me in all the crazy shit I do. She was the one front row, loudest one cheering
calling Rayburn the chubby checker. And I want to thank my dad for, he definitely didn't like this shit. But he got me into wrestling, so it's his fault. We would take me to see Hulk Hogan and all that shit at the Baltimore Arena. And I want to thank my wife and my little Care Bear for coming out wearing Jimmy Aldean t-shirts ringside. It's just been a great time. Good memories. I love you all. I'll see you guys at the pit stop where we'll drink some brews, eat some wings. So here's to the MWF Hall of Fame class of 2023. Yeehaw, bitches.
All right, let's hear it one more time. Jimmy Aldean. I'm not going to waste any more time because this has so far been the funniest stuff ever. I want to bring Andy Weinberg back to the podium to induct a man real quick. I just want to say something I've watched since day one. I've known this man. I don't have children, don't want them, but honestly, I've watched this man and his wife with his son, and it does something here. And I just want to make it a part of it. Thank you. Here we go.
I know what boys like. I know what guys want.
Any music?
I know what boys like.
Anything but that, man. I love Brian Hardy. Let's hear it for Brian Hardy again. You know what? This is all possible. No, I'm being serious, Brian. This is all possible because of you, man. I'm going to invite a special guest up here with me at this time to do this one with me. The Prince, Gavin McBride. Come on up here. Come on up. Let's hear it for this guy right here. I'm going to stand up for this champ right here, right, buddy? This is the real champ right here. Wave hi to everybody. Real nice. There you go. Put that W up for me. There you go. So Ryan McBride, how does one sum up in words the impact that Ryan has made on Maryland wrestling? When you think of Maryland wrestling, you think about everybody that's up here. And I want to add a couple other names like the Bruiser, who we miss very dearly. But of course, when you think of a locker room leader and a great wrestler, you think of the king, Ryan McBride. Ryan began his career in 2006. He was trained by Derek Frazier and DJ Hyde. He held titles in every company he worked for multiple times. He was a CZW junior heavyweight champion, tag team champion with EWA, had every MCW title imaginable. There's no doubt when you think about a generational local talent, Ryan, you are certainly a generational Maryland talent. Ryan's also one of the guys that I've been told on so many occasions can just work with anybody, whether it's a 90-year-old name from the past or be a high flyer, whatever it may be. He could fit in any of those situations, and he's the guy that never, ever complains when asked something to do. When I first met Ryan, I was actually super intimidated by you, believe it or not. He had this mean aura about him, but I got to know the guy, and I got to know the real Ryan, and after a foul, baby-faced turn that Ryan had in another company, right? It was a terrible run, wasn't it? They put him and I together, and it was like magic. It was certainly a match made in heaven, and we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of things together, and certainly a team now synonymous with Maryland wrestling history. Ryan is certainly the leader in the locker room now, and is there to offer advice. I see him do it all the time to the young talents, the up-and-coming stars. But when I got to meet him, I got to meet the real Ryan. I started working with him. The man, the husband, the son, the brother, the dad. And as much as you all would be impressed with Ryan's wrestling skills, there's nothing more than you will admire than knowing the real Ryan Clooney. I remember when Leah was pregnant and he was counting down the days. It was going to be the most exciting day in his life. You know what happened though? You came around soon after. Because Gavin came into the world. And we've all met many people in our lives, obviously, but I can tell you, no one smiles, no matter what kind of mood he's in, when we talk about you, Gavin. like your dad does. He is truly the world champion when it comes to fathers. There is not a better daddy in the world. You hit the daddy lottery for sure, Gavin, and you know that, right? What's he always do when I talk about you? What I tell you, he what? Smiles, right? As great, again, as he's also a brother. I want to mention his brother, who's a very special person in his life. He's not here today, but his brother Sean. I got to mention Sean. You know, Sean's an amazing guy, and Ryan is an amazing, amazing brother that literally takes his brother everywhere. Whether it be races, whatever it is, and I know Sean calls him after all of his matches on his way home so he can hear about your nights every night. You're an amazing brother. But we all know Ryan is undoubtedly the man, the champ, the face of Maryland wrestling. So without further ado, Gavin and I are going to do something together. The next inductee into the Maryland Hall of Fame is the King, Ryan McBride. There you go.
Well, I wasn't ready for that. Whew. You want to talk some more? No? Yeah. You're like me. I get scared when I see one of these things. I like to do all my work in the ring. Thank you, Brian, for this tremendous honor. To be inducted alongside all of these gentlemen, some of which I watched from the other side of the guardrail, and then I shared locker rooms and even a ring with some of you. It is a tremendous honor and a very, very cool thing. When I started wrestling, if I just got to be the opening match on one show, that would have been all well and good with me. But to be able to do all of the things I've been fortunate enough to do, I'm eternally grateful. Wrestling has given me some of the best and hardest laughs of my life, some of which I cannot tell in front of a group setting. And I will forever be grateful for wrestling. My time in the business is coming. I'm closer to the end than I am the beginning, but until that point, I'm going to give you all 150% from here on out. And then before I'm done talking, because Danny Mays went so over his time, you can tell he's not an in-ring talent. So I'm going to do the veteran thing and give other people time back. Lastly, and mostly important, I want to thank my wife, Leah. And, not ready for this. And my son, Gav. I know they worry every time I leave the house, and they worry until I walk back in the door. So thank you for being very supportful of my hobby. I love you both very, very much. And thank you to anyone and everyone that has ever come out and paid your hard-earned money to come see me wrestle. Thank you very much.
Okay, where do we go from here? Now we're really getting back to the old guys. The man I'm going to bring up next looks amazingly respectful. And if you saw his character from about 20 years ago, you'd be like, oh, that's not going to work. But in 2023,
He's in the middle of that banner.
he's rocking and rolling. We're dead center of the banner with Miss Mitzi Million, another good friend of ours. But at this time, I'd like to bring to the podium the erotic, the exotic, Adrian Hall.
Good music. So there's nothing like being reminded about how old you are when you're getting ready to do an introduction. So when you get an amazing opportunity like what I have today, which is to induct somebody that I truly admire and respect into the Maryland Wrestling Hall of Fame, it's a very humbling experience. It would seem easy to write the words for this speech. I mean, let's face it, Morgus the Maniac is quite a character, and there's quite a bit of stories about him, about what he has done and his accomplishments in wrestling. But it's really hard to fit it into the time slot, although I gotta tell you, after listening to Weinberg, I'm not too concerned about that right now. I had the pleasure of tagging with Morgus as part of Beauty and the Beast. I had the pleasure of working against him. Mostly, though, I enjoyed his antics and his matches for decades. Let me tell you about the first time I met Morgus, because I remember this very vividly. I just finished a trip to Georgia with Axel Rotten for my first 2 professional wrestling matches. Upon the return to Maryland, I was booked on my 3rd ever wrestling event at a fire hall in Pasadena. This is where I met Morgus, and to someone new, it can be difficult to determine where the Morgus the Maniac act would end and Maurice Watson would begin. He was incredibly polite and professional to all the green workers. He was, as he is now, a very gentle soul. However, once his music started, it was an entirely different story. Morgus had a habit of running through things, specifically doors, head first. He would psych himself up into a rage and tear around the building, head first into anything that he needed to, such as doors, windows, as we heard from him, from Andy earlier. Well, on this particular day, someone had locked the door. So you had Morgus running head first into this door that would not budge. And needless to say, it wasn't a pretty sight for the door. But this was the first day that I met Morgus, and it was also the first day that I met his family, who were all a part of the Morgus the Maniac show. For him, it was a real family affair. Morgus was continually a premier headliner in wrestling for over a decade. He's been in countless main events, feuding with the likes of Axel Rotten, Golden Phoenix, and the Bounty Hunter. He held numerous championships across many different federations and was one of the go-to local boys to face the big talent that was brought into our shows. He's faced some of the best in wrestling, such as Cactus Jack, Kerry Von Erich, Terry Taylor, and Adrian Hall. See what I did there? He is legitimately one of the most memorable wrestlers to originate in the Maryland wrestling scene, and in my humble opinion, and in the view of many others, he was directly responsible for the incredible success and growth of the independent scene in Maryland when it first started. It is very easy for those of us in wrestling to remember and want to honor our brothers who we've worked with and traveled with for years. True fame, though, is being remembered by your fans long after your days of wrestling in your prime are limited or ultimately ending. And Morgus is remembered by his fans, and I'd like to tell you, I just did a quick search this morning. I'm a video gamer. I love to play video games, and whenever I play my video games, like my SmackDown versus Raw, I'll create an Adrian Hall character, I'll create a Morgus the Maniac character. But even now, you can go online and you can find people making their own Morgus the Maniac characters for wrestling games. So this is true fame, Morgus, that people would remember you and create their version of you in their very own wrestling games so many years after you have really kind of passed your prime in wrestling. But there's very few people deserving of the honor, you know, the way I see it in wrestling, and you are absolutely deserving of this, and I'm very happy for you today. So it's my honor to induct Morgus into the Maryland Hall of Fame.
Let's go, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
It's always been a great ride. Going through everybody, everything, everywhere. Had my mom as my nurse, my dad was my doctor. Come out in my little old straight jacket, get out of it, just beat up whoever was there. It didn't matter who it was. It's been a great ride. Been to wrestling schools, of course.
many wrestling schools all through the state of Maryland. Even went to Pennsylvania, went down to Georgia, went down to WCW. And that's just the short end of it. I traveled everywhere. Been up to Rambo's. What an honor it is to have me inducted today. It is greatly appreciated. It's the final pinnacle of my career. And yeah, I did that. I did that. March. It was the Battle Royal where I finally got to wrestle Brian. It was an honor. But yeah, I could do one more match. I think I can. Yeah, but I'm not much for speaking. You know, I thank everybody, everywhere. Even thank my mom and dad and my wife for selling all my pictures. I had my whole family involved in everything I've done. And it's been such a great long road that I really appreciate this honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Brian.
Where do I start with these guys? Wow. I started in the wrestling business when I was 15, and I'm 52. And when I met the next duo that's going to be up here, I believe it was my very first night ever wrestling Max Thrasher, who was the bounty hunter then. And since then, I've traveled with the inductee just about everywhere there was to go. Every little carnival, fair, high school, everywhere. And the man that's about to induct them still to this day wrestles every single weekend. And he's one of the best dressed men I've ever seen. Yes. Let me bring up here for the next inductee, King Kalua. Yeah.
All right, shut off the music. First off, I'd like to thank Brian for what he's done here for all these guys, for myself, to get recognized for something that we love doing. It's just a great thing. You know, it's a great thing he's doing, him and his family, they sacrificed a lot, great production, so I can't give him enough credit for that. All right? The envelope was a little light, but... All right, so he said to say some funny things, tell some funny stories. So Tom was with this girl once, and oh, I guess I can't. This is PG, so I can't. Just once. All right, but there's not any midgets out there, any? All right, I gotta. Oh, you're not a midget. So anyway, one of the things that me and Tom have done for the last 40-some years was travel all over the East Coast. And, of course, Tom traveled much further than that. But, of course, sometimes we work for promoters that would not pay for our hotel. So we would put, like, 8 guys in a hotel. But 2 of them were midgets. So we made the midgets sleep in the drawers while we got the beds, you know. So, yeah, or in the tub, where we could find room for them. But you know, when you take this long, strange trip, you meet a lot of great guys. Some of which are, you know, maybe not playing with a full deck. But I've never seen any womanizing going on. I've never seen any drugs or wrestling at all. All right? So all that stuff that you see with the dark side of wrestling, it's all fake. But anyway, with Tom, I just can't really say enough about him. This guy is about the most
accomplished person in terms of wrestling. Wrestling in Puerto Rico, Japan, WCW, WWF, ECW, every independent organization that's out there. And one of the things at the time is like, his last name isn't Rhodes or Henning or something else. He did it all by himself. Like, he found me when I went into some place where he was working in a drunken stupor, and he introduced himself, and I'm like, oh, okay. He said, can you train me? And yeah, so I trained him, but he didn't need any training. This guy is like, he comes out of central casting in terms of the way he looks, the way he wrestles, and the way he carries himself, right? I mean, just a real pro. And so when he became a husband and he became a parent, it was like, wow, he did a great job with that too. Not a hint of impropriety. And we know that some guys in wrestling don't take that route. But what a guy. I can't really say anything more about him other than the fact that he's probably one of the number one guys out there in terms of getting booked, helping other people get booked, passing this thing we call professional wrestling down to the next generations. All right, so without further ado, here's probably the top guy that's out there in the indie circuit now, and also my best friend, Tom Brandi.
Tell the rest of the story. Tell the rest of the story. How old you are?
See, that's the thing. Like, early on when Andy said, what, 2 minutes? Said, good luck. I wanted to listen to Mike for because, he had a lot of good stories he couldn't get to, but this is a great thing. I mean, this is such a pleasure because when our phone rings, it's always for family stuff or negative stuff. And then Brian reaches out, and the fact that this is his baby. This is something that he's done before. And, I follow it. And when he reached out to be on this one, and I said, obviously you say yes, but then all the posts from Facebook. And what I like about it, so much passion behind what he does behind it. It's not half-ass at all. Because we've seen half-ass in this business on pretty much all the shows. That's the truth. Between the postcards and the keychains, the plaques, there's always shortcuts. You know what I mean? And I follow everyone on Facebook, and I say, make sure I like it, because Brian's going to notice. I said, make sure I hit love. Don't just hit like, because that's an easy.
I say that.
Make sure I press it so the love button comes up. Stuff like that, because you're always thinking, that's the world we're in now. That's social media. That's 2023, where you're like, man, I better not comment because I won't be booked ever again. Stuff like that. But that's the world we live in now. Like everybody said, see, what I like is when I looked at the family that got inducted today, it's I have a connection with every single one. Pretty much wrestled everyone down the road. I mean, shit, I watched Duane when I was a little kid. I grew up with my Duane Gill little figurine. For real. I mean, I don't know why anybody's laughing. He was my favorite wrestler when I was a little kid. Still is. But so that's the best part, because the group here, every guy I connected with. A lot of guys that, I didn't even know were going to be here today. I was looking forward to this because Maryland, I can't wait to see who shows up. One of those type things. And because I said, Brian made this such a spectacle, and it's a little hall in the middle of summer in Maryland. It's it's not a wrestling show. People will reach out to me and they'd say, well, who you wrestling? Well, I'm not. It's a special event. It's a Hall of Fame induction. Well, who does that? MWF does it. And then with all the history, we all could write a book. That's the thing. In this room, even if you just wrestled on the indies for 5 years, and just from your training portion to your wherever you went to and whatever shows you were part of, the guys you met, guys you shared locker rooms with, we all could write a book. That's like, I get asked all the time, and I'm like, why don't you write a book? I said, because nobody would buy it. I mean, like, it's my story. It's a story that I saw through my eyes. You know, I'm not the Undertaker. Never was, never will be, and Stone Cold, and guys like that. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be like what we saw and the roads that we traveled. And like Mike said, from day one, when I met him, you know, I came out of school, wanted to be a wrestler. There were no wrestling schools. Like, the only one that was around was a Monster Factory, but it was in Jersey. It was too far. It wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to drive over there. And then a friend of mine said there's a guy local that goes to the one gym. We have a gym member here today. She came all the way down from way back in 1985. And she said, and they said, this guy, he's a wrestler. King Kalua wrestles there, or he works out there. And I'm like, well, that's got to be I mean, who else am I going to approach? What else could I do? We're going to join a gym anyway. Me and a couple of my best friends, we're going to join a gym, and then the rest is history. Got to meet Mike, and he's probably like, man, this kid's a pain in the ass. I'm working out, I'm lifting and everything, normal stuff. But then, like, my level of wrestling and where he was at was night and day, because, like, I was still in love with, like, everything that happened on TV and watching every segment I could watch and taping every segment on TV and whatever was on the Saturday shows and whatever else, because we all love it. We love it. That's why we're here. That's why we did it. There, you know, and I followed him around, and we wrestled in the backyard on mattresses and dirt and stones and rocks, because that's all we had. We got mattresses. We did sunset flips, and we did a little technical wrestling, but, like, you know, that's why it's getting in the ring. We didn't have access to a ring. So, like, after a few years is when I start feeling comfortable. Where kids are in wrestling schools now, where they are in 2 and 3 months is where I was at in probably 2 and 3 years. But that was the world we lived in. That was 1985. And, I mean, that's just one of those things you deal with. We had no other options. But, like, Mike took me under his wing. I went all the shows. And I just had big-eyed, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed, and great attitude and everything. You know, that's all I wanted to ever be. And it's amazing, because what I've seen, I can't ever give back. It's a great thing. It's all positives. The negatives you just ignore. There's always that stuff. But just the fact that, like Mike said, the opportunity, the other guys mentioned, opportunities of wrestling in Mid-South Coliseum in that territory for Jerry Lawler. Okay, that was my first break in Memphis. Then in Puerto Rico, and then in WCW and All Japan, and then WWF. And then all the countless of independent wrestling ever since, and all the promotions. And it's just a big thank you, and thank God I was able to. And even now, like, we're wrestling tonight in Jersey. So if anybody wants to follow us, I'll give you the address. But we're wrestling, and people say, you know, I just turned 57 the other day, and they say, well, how long can you wrestle? I said, well, you know what? Here's the thing. It'll be over one day, but that day's not today. And that's been my motto from day one. So I'll leave you with one quick story. I have a book I've kept, and this is the best thing I've ever done. I've written down every single match I've ever had from day one, 37 years. I write down the date, the location, my opponent, and I've kept, and thank God I kept everything. I kept everything right where I know it was at. So coming to Maryland and with the promotions I've wrestled for, I said, I'm trying to remember what my first Maryland show was, just to go back and look. It's the only way I would remember. So back in Brian, I'll ask you if you remember this. Do you remember when AWA came to Tropicana in Atlantic City? So Vern Gagne brought the AWA for just a few tapings to the Tropicana, Atlantic City. And at the time, there was a guy, remember Gary Juster? So Gary knew Mike. And Mike, and they booked some of the local guys to work all the AWA guys at the tapings. At the time, I was just happy to go for the ride. I mean, I brought my camera to take pictures of Mike and some of his guys that I had met at that point. This is only like a year or so into the business. So I was able to wrestle, next couple of shows, wrestled Stan Hansen and guys like that. So Maryland comes around, they do a house show at the Baltimore Arena. March 31st, 1986. So Mike goes down. I go with him. He's booked. Do you know who you were wrestling? Yeah, Marty Jannetty. So I'm just there for the ride. I'm just there. So at the time, AWA and NWA were doing combination shows. Every superstar was booked on these house shows. They were loaded. Road Warriors, Ric Flair, Magnum TA, Koloffs, the Freebirds, you name them, they were booked. So we get there, and Gary Juster goes to Mike. He says, their flight is really delayed. Really delayed. He says, so at the time there was about 6 wrestlers in the locker room. And I think it was probably an hour before the show. He goes in, the time, Mike's ready, Mike's dressed, ready to go. So the clock is ticking, and the promoter dying. You promote it, you know what that's all about. You're dying, sweating, you're like, oh my God, and that's pre-cell phone days. There's no way to find out what the hell's going on. Way before cell phones. So they go, Mike, can your guy wrestle? He goes, yeah, we can go out first match. I'm like, holy shit. And I didn't have anywhere near. I mean, this is 20,000 sold out. I'm dying. Absolutely shitting my pants. Of course, now, and these guys will know this, the one thing I learned that day that you preach when you become a wrestler, always bring your gear, no matter what. Shit, bring it here today. We might wrestle out back. Brian, I can't believe you don't have a ring set up out back. So I didn't bring my gear. So we're looking around. Mike goes digging through his bag, pair of orange trunks. I'm like, shit, I ain't wearing that. You're ugly. I'm wearing no damn orange. Guess what? That's all I got. So we're looking around. Anybody got size 13 boots? Size 13 boots? Baron von Raschke. That Baron von Raschke. I said, shit. I ain't going to be able to do none of my moves. Ugly ass black patent leather boots, kid leather boots, these rotten orange trunks. We go out there for 20 freaking minutes. Non-stop. Thank God, because we had already wrestled probably at least 20 times. Thank God. So we had the match. We knew each other. Boom, 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 boom. And it was, 1, 2, 3. Mike wins. And we're going back, and actually people couldn't believe it. Because we didn't have a clue of any of us. And that time, you're there to see the stars. You don't want to see no locals. You don't want to see no popcorn matches. And that's my first Maryland experience. So, again, nothing but stories. We could be here all day. I can't thank everybody enough. I love the crew that's here today. Congratulations to everybody. Thank you again, Brian. And like I said, Mike, greatest trainer ever, best friend. Thank you.
Where do we go now? Oh, it was 1991, 2. We get a phone call and they say, we need 20 guys to just get in the car and drive to Canada. Okay. Duane Gill, Barry Hardy, the man I'm about to bring up, and about a dozen of us, I think, total. So I got to get this story in. We get back to the hotel that night, some dive that we're staying at. 4 o'clock in the morning, guys are banging on doors and all this crazy stuff. We're like, what the hell's going on? And as I remember, it was his father with a picture of the Ultimate Warrior, and he's like this on the front page of the newspaper. The next guy I'm bringing up had to deal with these guys day and night. Best friends. If it wasn't for this guy, half of us would have never made it to the shows, because at the time, Joe ran a car rental agency, and God did we trash those cars. If they only had a clue. But the man I'm about to bring up now wrestled with us, and still to this day, I think he could wrestle Morgus next. Let me bring to the podium Jammin' Joe.
Once again, I'd like to thank Brian for the show. As I said on my induction 8 years ago, I never stepped in the ring for Brian, but he inducted me into his Hall of Fame because of what we have done in this business. And the gentleman I'm inducting, what we have done in this business. No, I'm telling everybody. Well, you don't have any family here, right? They're not here. Where's your wife? All right, I'll call her. I'll call her in London. Talking about first shows, Mike Kahlua was on the first show you and I ever worked together, and I managed Duane as the Concrete Warrior. Were you there, Tom? I don't think you were. I know Cheetah Kid was there.
Glen Park High School?
Brandywine High School.
Brandywine, yep.
Brandywine High School.
January 10th. Concrete Warrior.
90 what? 90?
1990.
1990. Are you sure about that?
Yep.
When, I'm not that
January
old.
10th.
I was a teenager then. So I walked this gentleman out to the ring. We get our match done. And then it's a long road from there. Many miles traveled up and down the road, many miles traveled in the ring against each other. I missed a year and a half of wrestling due to an injury. Not going to bring that up. Yes, I am. Broken collarbone because of somebody's flying shoulder tackle. But Morgus did it, yeah. Morgus did it. Why not? One more match, right? One more match. But yeah, Duane and I trained together. Many a bumps on a plywood floor, a piece of plywood on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Before we bought the ring from Larry Sharp. I remember going to get the ring to buy from Larry Sharp. Barry Hardy and myself driving the rental truck up to New Jersey to get this ring. Duane's in the box the whole way up. Before cell phones, so we couldn't talk to each other. So Duane's back there doing whatever Duane's doing. Let me just tell you, it was no help loading the ring once we got there.
I didn't do that.
But then comes MWF. Again, just appreciating what people have done for this business. And I, again, humbly, thank you for what you have done for everybody in this business and in this building today. Because like I said, a lot of these guys I worked my first professional match with looked to Tom Brandi to be on the show so I could be on that same show. And that was maybe 30 years ago. Maybe. And how old are you? Let's not go there.
Born in 1990. I'm 33.
But I can't say enough about Duane. Like I said, Duane and I trained together. Duane and I broke into business together. And I'm not going to go over my time like a lot of these guys do because I'm Jammin' Joe and I do what I say what I got to say and be done. So, Duane, I can't say any more about you, brother. I love you. We've done it all. And I will be the professional to hand it to you.
All right. First, I'll take my glasses off. I get 2 minutes. Ring announcer gets 45. Now, Brian, I really appreciate everything you do. It's because of your dad is the reason I'm in this business. He taught me everything I know, and you're just like your father. You're giving back because he gave back a lot, man. And I really appreciate it. I really do because, like everybody said, you've all heard it. He's taking care of the old guys and giving some appreciation to all of us, and I really appreciate that and preserving Maryland wrestling. His father, like I say, kind of started all this out there with Joe and I. And, Morgus too, man. Morgus was there from day one coming down in there. But Joe and I started learning on a piece of carpet, laying on a piece of plywood on concrete. And then, like he said, he bought that ring. and it was an 18 by 18 ring, putting a 20 by 20 thing. You hit the ropes, whack, into the wall. Oh my God. So he went and had it cut down. Thank God. Thank you, Joe. We all lived through it. No, I really appreciate all this. Tom, Brandi, my God, man, we've been everywhere, up, down. I wrestled that guy a ton. Joe, sorry about the shoulder, man. Brian, I remember when he was born. Like I say, it was just a couple months after the first show he was born, you know. So I've known him his whole life. It's an honor. I don't talk much at all, everybody. As you know, I just go, ah, like that. So thanks very much. Ring announcer, you ate up everybody's time. I really appreciate that. And like they say, I'll be professional and get out of here. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Wow. Before we commence with the final man of the night and final inductor of the night, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out today.
Yeah, really.
As Tom Brandi had said, it's hard to get people to come out now to an event like this. If you're not the WWE with $35,000 worth of lighting rigs and $1 million production company, it's really hard, you know. And it's like, I knew when I talked to Brian earlier today, I'm like, dude, some of the people may not know everybody because depending on what area you're from or where you come from, you know, Tom and Mike are from like Pennsylvania, but like he said, he spent half his career working in Maryland and worked for everyone, not just one or two companies like it is nowadays. Oh, you can't work here, you can't work there. Something Brian's never said to any of us. You know, all he wants to do is put the family together and do a show. And when he brought the concept of doing the Hall of Fame again to me, I was honored just that he's going to bring me back again. Of course, now that I've talked more than my 2 minutes, I'm probably fired, but it's all good. Because when he showed me the sheet and he goes, you get 2 minutes to start, I went, oh, Jesus.
I'm absorbing all the heat for that.
My girlfriend spent hours writing all this shit. Okay, I'm going to have 2 minutes. Card, see ya. But the thing of it is all of us at one point or another in one generation or another, because you've got 4 generations sitting here, we all wanted to be pro wrestlers. And I can't say today, and I'm not going to sit here and trash the kids of today, but it's not the same thing. When Tom and Mike go up tonight in New Jersey, they're going to put on a clinic in front of these young kids, and they have no clue what they're watching. They don't understand why at the end of their match, the people will be on their feet, they'll be cheering. And during the match, they're actually going to be booing, and they're not going to like Mike. As beautiful as that suit is, they're going to hate him. And I will say this, look him up. You guys all got cell phones. Go on Google. Mike has some of the most amazing ring outfits now that I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, he does.
You know what I mean? You see these kids now, they go to the store and they're looking for Wrangler jeans to wear to the ring or shorts, and just they take no pride in what they do. And whether you liked us or you hated us, at the end of the night, as long as the people went home happy, I'd stare at the lights every night just like I did my whole career. The whole point is, as long as you guys go home happy from this, and you're like, I had a good time. I got to learn about new wrestlers. Like God knows, Morgus has been, how long have you been done, basically?
About 10 years.
So 10 years since he stepped in a building like this. It's cool that it keeps going. You guys hear about it. Maybe you'll tell somebody else. Maybe you'll tell your friends, man, I went to this event that Brian Hardy threw, and I didn't know what I was getting into at first, but it was pretty cool. I got to learn some new things. I got to see some faces I've never seen before. And understand that this family, as Tom said, and that's exactly what it is, for 25 years, give or take, I spent more time with these guys than I did my family. And so did they. They left their kids home, they left the wife home. Hopefully the wife stayed home. And we've all went through that too. I've seen guys give up their family. I've seen guys lose their wives. I've seen wives lose their husbands. Now in this business today, it's not just the boys. When I came up, there was maybe 6 or 8 girls on the circuit. Tom will tell you, Wendy Richter and Heidi Lee Morgan. There was only a couple, and those girls went through hell. These girls today are pampered. You know what I mean? And the kids are too. But every once in a while, you got to dust some of us off and bring us back out just to have fun. And for that, I want to thank Brian Hardy. To everybody on the panel here today, because I have worked with, around, in the ring, my best friend Ruckus. It's just amazing that we get this opportunity. And last but not least, the 2023 Hall of Fame for the MWF. I'd like to bring up a kid that I've known since day one. Like Duane said, he remembers when Brian was born. I remember when all of them were born. That's telling me it's closing in quick on me. I'd like to bring to the podium Owen Hardy.
Okay, I know for sure that I didn't come prepared for this. I had about 2 months, and I just said, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna wing it, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Well, first I'd like to piggyback off of what Bob Starr said when he was explaining the wrestling business and how most of these guys, well, all of them are older than me, but most of these guys twice my age, 3 times my age, so. Only some of you, okay. But they go out there and they like to have fun, and that's kind of what this all is as a whole. This is just guys going out there and having fun. So whether it was the money or whether it was the fun or anything else, you were kind of just going out there and you were just wrestling. I don't know, you can't really put a thing on it, but I'm here today to induct my dad, who technically I've known my whole life, you know what I mean? But if we're counting the days that he was out on the road, okay, that's about a year or 2, give or take. So, but a lot of these guys, I've just seen Mr. Tom Morgus. We rode him up to House of Pain in March, right?
Yep.
I've known Danny since God knows how long.
I'm not 3 times your age.
I said some. But even guys like Ruckus, when I was a little tiny kid back in the Elks Lodge, I was just sitting there at like their little mini bar area, and Ruckus walks up to like a 2 or 3-year-old and goes, "Hey, you want a York peppermint patty?" Hey, mommy, York peppermint patty. We sat there, we ate it. And yeah, well, I don't know. Felt a little sugar rush, you know what I mean? But whether it was someone I've known since the MWF days, USW days, or someone I'm meeting for the first or second time, like Jim and Joe here. I don't know. I don't have any memory of meeting him. I met him at the last Brian's Wrestling Collection, but like I was too young to know anything else. Same with Mr. Adrian Hall there. But a lot of these guys, they're coming here, having fun, and getting honored for it. So basically, that's kind of what this is. This plaque right here, even though it is a plaque, it means everything to someone who thinks they deserve it. So whether it was Tom Brandi or Brian Hardy here or Jimmy Aldean, they all deserve it, because whether it was in ring or behind the scenes, which you don't see, they were doing stuff for this company that other guys wouldn't, and putting over people that other guys wouldn't and would just leave if they didn't like it. And yeah, so, but I'd like to talk about how Mr. Tom said earlier that King Kalua trained him, and that's kind of what MWF was. Jimmy Aldean, or not Jimmy Aldean, no. Jimmy Aldean trained with him, but Mike Height, Adam Armstrong, the Fabulous Studs, all of them were trained by Brian Hardy. Currently, myself, and the man in the DXI shirt, Cody back there, and Ariel, wherever she is being, or are being trained currently. So he's kind of shaping up the next generation of MWF or whatever's in the future. But yeah, so I came up here with zero preparation and kind of just up here to say, you deserve it. You've earned it, and I think that everybody around you would say the same exact thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, some may know him as a father, a friend, a husband, but now you all know him as class of 2023 Hall of Famer, my dad, Brian Hardy.
It's the second generation sensation.
All right, I'm gonna try my best today to be the one that actually speaks into the microphone besides Danny Mace. Everybody else is back here. I'm gonna try to stay here with you. All right, let's calm yourself, here we go. All right, guys, I just wanna take, thank you, good night. I just wanna take the time to first stop and look. The kid that just did the introduction is the future of Maryland wrestling and all of professional wrestling for that matter. Third generation Owen Hardy. Thank you, son. I love you very much. Thank you for attending such an important day in Maryland wrestling history, a day that means so very much to all the pro wrestlers in the state. Since 2011, the MWF Hall of Fame has been in existence. Could you please take a moment with me to honor all of the past inductees? If you are in the MWF Hall of Fame previously, please stand and let's show our respect for you. Just want to take the time to point out the banner over there in the back. There's a lot of people that aren't with us anymore. Nikolai Volkov, Jumpin' Joey Maggs, and a bunch of people. Give it up for the Maryland Wrestling Federation Hall of Famers that are no longer here. Okay, let's get through this. I'm like shaking like a little kid, man. Bad. All right, here we go. So, this historic hall was created 13 years ago. This historic hall, our very first inductee was Terry Funk. His contributions to wrestling are what makes Terry a legend, but his matches at the Baltimore Civic Center are what made him a Maryland Hall of Famer. He just turned 79 a few weeks back, and we wish that he could be here, but his health would not permit it. We love you, Terry, and this one is for you tonight. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about every guy on this list of the Hall of Fame inductees tonight, and wish each and every one of them congratulations on this honor. Where to begin? Ruckus, the Jake the Snake of getting baked, the Teddy Long of hitting the bong, and the Bruce Lee of woo! All right, man. It's legal now, by the way. I think Ruckus is the only one on this list tonight that I haven't had the opportunity to wrestle, and I really wish we had a match together. I have had the pleasure of booking him numerous times over the years and providing him with a paycheck for providing my audiences with one heck of an entertaining match. Time and time again. For comic relief, one of my favorite Ruckus matches was against Mike Height at MWF Resurrection 2015. But I would have to say, pound for pound, one of the best matches that I ever booked on an MWF show was in April of 2011 at the Hunt Is On, where Ruckus battled Sanjay Dutt. I remember that night like it was yesterday. The ring broke 5 minutes before the doors opened, and everyone was being a crybaby about working in unsafe working conditions. I was new to being a promoter at the time, and I really didn't know quite how to respond. Ruckus walks past me and says, "Yo, if y'all are true professionals, like you say you are, you'll find out how to work around it tonight without hitting the ropes. Stop giving Brian shit and do your job." And from there on out, I knew Claude was a great business person and had the best interest of the company at heart. Thank you, Ruckus. Congratulations. Morgus. Yeah! All right. I had the opportunity to ride to a show with Morgus the Maniac a few months ago. We were wrestling in Allentown. I was a little kid all over again, getting to pick his brain on the car ride and breaking bread with him. Later on in the night, I'm in the ring for a battle royal that he won, by the way. You got that big trophy at home? Yeah, you do. And all of a sudden, I look over and I said, "Morgus, hit me." And he did. And I never thought that year in 2023 that I would be able to say that I was in a ring getting punched by Morgus. Absolutely awesome. Congratulations, Morgus. Welcome to the family. Oh, gosh. Speaking of family, Jimmy Aldean, baby. Give it up for him. Give it up for him. Yeah, that's right. I was his trainer and his first opponent. Wrestled him at John Rambo's in 2009, a very hot summer day. I remember that little building. We were stinking and sweating all over each other, and MWF Hall of Famer Butch Hess was the referee for that encounter. Someone that I've always been able to count on. Our grandparents were best friends, our parents were best friends, and we are best friends. We spent every Easter together as kids at the famous egg hunts that my grandmother would put on. His last match was against me, a 6-man tag in 2015 at the Elks. Sold out crowd, by the way, 304 that night. That was great, which is great for an independent show. I don't know what else to say, man. I love you. Congratulations. You definitely deserve that honor. Ryan Mcbride, the King of Maryland, everybody. Give it up for Ryan once again. What people don't know is that Ryan Mcbride was one of my first opponents in the state of Maryland. And he took me to school. Ryan and I had a few matches in different states, but I never really got the opportunity later in my career to give him the best match that I thought he deserved. He was a very instrumental part in my career, even with training at the EWA Pain Factory, and a former MWF heavyweight champion. Congratulations. When I think of people like Ryan Mcbride, when people think of Ryan Mcbride, they always think of someone that gave them their money's worth every single time. Congratulations, Ryan. When I met Tom Brandi, I was just a kid waiting outside of shows each month to get a picture with him. Talk about a guy that just looked like a wrestler and had great charisma. Over the years, he has been super awesome to me, more than a class act, and someone that I believe puts the word professional in professional wrestling. I can't begin to tell you the amount of shows I've been on over the years where Tom was dressed as the Patriot, and he's looking for guys he can trust. I don't know what he wants from them at first, but pretty much he's just looking for guys. Luckily, I was able to be called one of those guys. We are in Scranton, PA, real fast, for CPW. Roy Probst was the promoter, and I'm greener than grass, and Tom says, "Brian, I have a lumberjack match tonight, and I need to pop a few guys off the apron. I need you to be one of them." At that point, I felt like I was in the club. And I wish I could find that match on video, because I'm sure the guys that he popped in the face before were like these seriously mean, grizzled guys, and here I am. I'm about to get punched in the face by Tom Brandi. This is awesome. The same Tom Brandi that I used to watch on Saturday nights, late night shotgun Saturday night when I was a kid. The same Tom Brandi that was in the Royal freaking Rumble. Seriously. Man. I'm grateful for all these years later to call him a friend. And thank you, Mr. Tom. And now you are in the club. I met a guy when I was 15 years old. We were playing a show at the Woods, man. You took some of my material from me already. You know what I'm saying?
Should have gone over spots beforehand.
That's right. Call it in the ring, man. We were playing a show at the Woods, which was an old beat-down church in Severna Park, Maryland. We are both from in the bathroom putting our makeup on at the same time. Wow. It was from Adrian Hall, by the way. We're putting our makeup on at the same time, talking about how the setup monitors in front of the stage were giving us SummerSlam 1992 vibes. We had been friends ever since. I'm talking about Danny Mays. For years, I've told him that I was going to start a wrestling company, and he told me that if I ever did, he was going to be my ring announcer. It was sort of like Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump, that if he ever got a shrimping boat, he'd be his first mate, you know what I mean? So Danny was my first mate, pretty much. Sure enough, on this crazy journey, Danny was one of the first, ever on my first show as a ring announcer and a very intricate part of my shows for years after. Many don't know that Danny is responsible for a lot that went on with production, sound, lights, logos, heck, even the Hall of Fame plaques every year that the inductees receive. Danny is the one who puts that together. So thank you, Danny, for always standing by my side, even when people have run their mouth about me and run my name through the mud. You have always been a super pro at everything you do, and I love you, brother. And we can't talk about Danny Mays without talking about Danny's dad, Mr. Paul Mays. Mr. Paul's been my timekeeper since Lord knows when. Every major championship I've ever held, I looked over when the 3 count happens and Mr. Paul was sitting right there at ringside ringing the bell. The average person may think at times that ringing the bell is such an easy job, but I have to be honest with you. I've seen so many people screw it up over the years, and Paul Mays has never screwed it up. We have never put a timekeeper into the Hall of Fame, and we never had a father and a son into the Hall of Fame at the exact same time, and this was the perfect time for 2 firsts. Congratulations, Mr. Paul, and thank you for your loyalty to MWF, and more importantly, your loyalty to being an awesome dad to Danny. Raised one heck of a kid, and the missus. Gilbert. Do it. Gilbert. What is there to say? A true pioneer of Maryland wrestling. I have wrestled you. I have been your tag team partner. I have been your student. I have been your roommate. That's a wild story. So we're in New Jersey at the Indigo Hotel, a really nice hotel paid for by this promoter, and me and Uncle Duane, we decided to call it an early night. He stayed in the room with me, and instead of going down to the bar, I look over and he's passed out sleeping. So I decided to make a call home to my wife on the hotel phone. I didn't think anything of it, but when we wake up in the morning, Duane is looking at me like, oh boy, you effed up. And I'm just looking at him like, what did I do? He got a call from the promoter bright and early. He was down in the lobby paying for the room, and there was a $300 phone bill to our room. Yeah, I learned the hard way that day. Yikes. I love you, Uncle. Thank you for everything. Congratulations. Okay, wow, this is real. Look at this plaque. I'm used to seeing them and presenting them, but not used to getting one. I feel like a real playboy right now. Speaking of which, where's Bob Starr? Bob Starr, I could go on and on for hours about how much I love Bob Starr. I have wrestled him all over the East Coast, from the NWL, House of Pain, to USW, to SSW, and more. I have a million stories. I could consider you to be a member of my family. Everybody calls him Uncle Bob, and he has been a part of every major event that has happened. It's that simple. I trust him, I count on him, and he is truthfully a throwback to everything that pro wrestling should be. With that being said, Bob Starr was in the first MWF Hall of Fame class back in 2011 with Terry Funk. And he has spent the last number of years ripping me a new one because the first year the plaques were not as nice as the stuff the guys get today. And every year I roll my eyes and say, yeah, eventually you're due for an upgrade. Well, that upgrade is today. So Bob, thank you for everything you have done for me, for the boys, for MWF, for professional wrestling. Thank God Danny Mays made this possible. Here's your updated plaque. I wonder how he's going to react in a few months when he finds out we're going to finger rings soon. Bob Starr, everybody. So we finally got him his updated plaque. So there you go, Bob. I don't ever want to hear about that. I've been hearing about that since 2011. Seriously, every single year. You guys got the nice plaques. Why am I getting one? All right, I started my wrestling career as a referee in 2008, shortly after I had my first pro match in New York in 2009, teaming with my father, Barry Hardy. I decided to get into promoting by 2010, and in 2011, I started winning championships all over the coast. I am the only MWF Grand Slam champion, holding the MWF Heavyweight Championship on 3 occasions, the Junior Heavyweight Championship on 2 occasions, and the MWF Tag Team Championships once in 2012 with my father. I am the first second-generation Maryland professional wrestler to hold the heavyweight title and the first second-generation professional wrestler to be inducted into the same Hall of Fame as my father. I want to thank my wife, Kayla, who I have been with since the time I was 15 years old. I'm 33. That's more than half my life now. Without her love and support, I would have never accomplished all my goals and dreams. She is the backbone of the vision of mine, and every time I come up with something stupid or a crazy idea, she's right there to say, okay, let's do it. Thank you for being my rock. Thank you for being an amazing mother to my children. Thank you for your unconditional love and support, and thank you for having to play the role of 2 parents when I couldn't be present in younger years due to pro wrestling. I love you. To my brother-in-law, Adam Armstrong, I kicked the living hell out of Adam Armstrong for years and years and years, long before he was 18 years old. That kid was training when he was 15 years old. When he moved in with us, we got custody. He was my wife's little brother, and I treated him like a son, and I raised him like a son. AWA Tag Team Champions, baby, Baltimore Blondes. I'll never forget those memories. To my kids, Alex, Ariel, Owen, Harry, Lacey, and Allison, you are my greatest accomplishment. Every day I strive to help you become the very best people that you can be. Contributing members to society is what Mom and I always say. Thanks for putting up with all of my crazy ideas over the years and allowing Dad to go play wrestler. I love you all. All I ever dreamed about was being a wrestler when I was a kid, a pro wrestler and a rock star. I was able to live both of my dreams. I have been able to release multiple albums. I've won more championships than I ever expected, and honestly, I got to wrestle the Baltimore Arena for WWE on more than one occasion, and that's cool. I would always say after this that if this is the best thing that happens to me, and it doesn't go any further than this, then I just hit the lottery. Everything from here on out is strictly a bonus. I am truthfully grateful. I want to take the time to thank so very many people, but I would be here for hours, and I thought I would say something nice about each inductee today instead, and my family. And then I would tell you that if you wanted to read about my wrestling career, my music career, and my real life, that you could just go buy my brand new book, Wrestling with Life, Rocking All Night, The Brian Hardy Story, available for $30 on Amazon. I am extremely grateful. Weak plug, right? I'm extremely grateful for this honor. I had a health scare a few months ago, and that actually was part of the reason for the decision-making process to put me in the MWF Hall of Fame after turning it down for years. I always wanted to be the guy to honor others, and I never thought to do this. It was more of a call on my family's end. 15 years of being a pro wrestler, 14 years of being a promoter, and I can tell you one thing, I ain't done yet. Oh, heck no. I want to go to heaven one day. But I ain't ready. There is still work to be done down here, and one day when I do go to heaven, like the great MWF Hall of Famer Terry Funk said, I want to go to heaven in a wrestling ring, and every seat is front row ringside. As I look around this building, a building that I have wrestled so many of my most important matches in, I think, if only walls could talk. MWF title matches against Eric Young, Robbie E., classics with the model Mike Height, amongst so many others. And let's not forget my favorite match of all time in this building against Jerry the King Lawler. That ain't the only king that I'm going to wrestle in my career, because one day me and King Kalua are going to square up. For real. All right, as I look around this building, honestly, this building will forever mean so much to me. It's historic. And yet again, history is made today as I stand here, MWF Hall of Famer. Thank you all, I love you all, and this is sensational.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and experiencing something that we think is fun. We know you guys think is fun, and hopefully there's going to be an announcement sometime soon.
Wait a second. We have to make an announcement sometime soon. You can't wait. Hold on. It's like an old closet down here. So I just wanted to let everybody know, I said it's not over anytime soon, and it's really not. Back in 2010, we ran the first show under the name United States Wrestling, and the division was completed from there, which later switched over to MWF. And the first main event of USW, history making, it was Earl the Pearl and Rambler Rich Myers, the Holy Rollers, and Playboy Bob Starr against Gilberg, Brian Hardy, and Ronnie Zuko. That was the first USW main event back in 2010. And I just am here today to say, be on the lookout, and let's let the internet be our best friend as it always is, because ladies and gentlemen, this upcoming year, I promise you, you will see something like you have never seen before on an independent level, because if I can do stuff like this, I can literally do anything, and I'm talking the works. Bob knows the deal. There's already action figures in production. There is already so much taking place at the moment. And in 2024, we're going to have the greatest year of our life as USW returns to Maryland and the surrounding areas. Thank you guys so much. With that being said, guys, thank you everybody for coming out, and we're going to do photo ops with everybody. Just give us a couple minutes. We're all going to take pictures with our plaques and stuff, and then we'll be more than happy to sign autographs and do pictures and all that stuff. Thank you guys so much.